Good morning, everybody. It is Caffeine Corner time. Yes, it is Caffeine Corner time, and contrary to what I think Feline said, not really clickbaity title, I don't think. I think this title actually is a little more apropos than probably people realize. But anyways, good morning, Cheshire.
It's the beginning of the first of the last of the firsts.
Yeah, something like that. But first, let me welcome everybody. It is time for caffeine. This is my fourth cup this morning. I've been pretty busy this morning. And you're drinking tea with a little milk, it looks like?
Yeah, just regular.
So
I like these mugs though. My sister gave me some mugs when she moved, and so she gave me a bunch of her stuff that she didn't want anymore. So I've got one of these that's like a darker version where the colors are like a darker greeny. And so it's the same mug, and then like the big sip and the gulp mug, and she gave me a bunch of mugs.
I should be drinking out of my smug, but this holds more coffee.
Vanya got her Trigglypuff mug, and it's great.
Yeah, no, like I mentioned that before, I thought the Trigglypuff was actually really well done. It really popped. I mean, there was a lot of detail to it, for sure.
Yeah, it was. I actually put some time into that one because I was invested. Like, I liked the concept and I liked the idea that everybody came up with it. So I really wanted to make it look good.
Yeah,
well, professional. Make it look like it's an actual Pokemon.
Well, I mean, she seems to like it, and I like my smug. I also got my ATA mug too, but anyways, so you want to maybe tell people kind of what's going on here? I mean, by the way, this is all good. It's all good stuff, so nothing bad. But everything comes to an end. Everything has a time and a place, a season for everything, a time to reap, a time to sow. So Cheshire, what would you like to tell the audience here?
We're kind of at the point where I think both of us, because we've talked about this for a little while, kind of in the background. I don't know if we talked about it publicly too much, but that Caffeine Corner has sort of run its course. It's done what it set out to do. The goals of the show have been reached. So I think we're talking about wrapping it up and maybe switching ourselves over to something else. Like, it's not like we're gonna no all the people have said that our channels are dying and we have no place on the internet, so we're just gonna leave.
Yeah, we're done with we're done. We're just gonna
done with the internet.
Been there, done that. No, I had somebody mention that the other day, and I'm like, look, I've changed my formats a few times. I've gotten rid of a lot of the extraneous people, what they call drama stuff, and there's for a reason. I didn't want to deal with any of that stuff. I want to talk about science. I want to talk about philosophy. I want to talk about critical thinking. I want to talk about math, and I've done that. And I will continue to do those things. But in the interim of waiting for non sequitur to come back, if at all, we decided to do Caffeine Corner to kind of promote critical thinking. But I think we're going to elevate it to the next level, and again, something that's not on the line of a non sequitur show, but Chester and I are thinking about we've pretty well have thought about starting something new, kind of in the vein of Caffeine Corner, but also in the vein of maybe like I'm not going to say a parody of the Atheist Experience, but something along the lines of a more of a call-in show, because we've guys noticed we've been doing more call-ins and we've really enjoyed it. We like interacting with people calling in. We like when theists call in. We like when atheists call in. We like when agnostics call in. We like when anybody calls in and has a topic to discuss with us. And I think that because of that, we're going to start a show. Don't know when it's going to launch yet. Could be next week. Could be week after. We've got a lot of the details. Cheshire and I had sat there and literally worked really amazingly well together to get the format down. It was nice.
We've hashed out most of it. We're just not sure when it's going to launch. And so basically the show is going to replace Caffeine Corner's time slot.
Correct.
So Caffeine Corner will be gone as it currently is, but it will sort of live on in that we've sort of spent enough time telling you how things work, and now you get to come to us and ask us or tell us how it works.
Correct.
So we've sort of gone through and explained the fallacies. We've gone through and explained how to recognize drama and how to navigate these kinds of situations. Now you can call us and tell us about your specific situation, and we'll either give you advice or we'll give you our opinions, and whether it's something that's a very philosophical kind of topic or whether it's just, hey, my son did this thing and I don't know how to approach him about it, we can kind of talk about those communication skills. So it's sort of taking Caffeine Corner to the next level to now that we've sat down and had our conversation in the cafe, you guys are now invited in to the cafe to have those conversations.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally like we're sitting in the in the cafe and we're having coffee, or in my case, sitting at a bar having a scotch. Principle's the same, right? Just people chatting, people asking for people's advice and talking about things. And by the way, nobody should ever take our advice, like 100%. We could be absolutely wrong in things.
You should always listen to everything I say every time. I am always right.
Here's the thing. We have something called the internet nowadays. And part of the internet is something called Google. We also have Bing and Yahoo and Ask Jeeves, I still think is around. But Google allows us to look up a lot of things. So if people want us to talk about things, we still will be able to look at Google and maybe get an idea of the subject and give them an idea. Just, never heard of this before. Let's check into it. Maybe we learned something that way. So I think there's a plethora of things to be out there for people to call in, not just to have a particular group of people call in. Like, for example, let's take the atheist experience, because people have been saying that has been dying pretty much. And, it's not that they don't get the views any longer, but I think it's a different viewership than they had before.
It's repetitive.
Very.
So the thing is like when a show runs its course, you don't want to just stretch it out and make it last forever with nonsense. Like, that's just no good. Family Guy might be a good example of that. But you don't want... It also doesn't mean that we won't have episodes like this. We're just going to switch the format so that episodes that are like, if we've noticed that people are calling in or people are talking about something and we feel like we maybe need to explain it, to be like, okay, so people are getting this wrong. Let's talk about this very specific thing and kind of do an older format, which would be this format. So there might be ones that happen once in a while, but it'll be more of a switch. So we'll be doing the call-in show more like regular Caffeine Corner, and regular Caffeine Corner might happen once in a while if we think there's something that's like, okay, listen, we got to talk about this. Guys, please, because it's run its course. The amount of improvement in conversation that we've seen, even just on Twitter, has been amazing.
Oh, there's no question. People have taken what we said and ran with it. I mean, people like literally on Twitter will be like, "Hey, that fallacy is this or this is that," and they'll give us some, credit for saying, "Hey, I thanks for putting this on Caffeine Corner, or thanks for talking about this because I didn't know about this subject before. I've learned about it," and I think that's the greatest thing that, as somebody who's on YouTube, anybody could ever get. If somebody has learned something, then what better thing is that? Because that's what I'm here. I want to learn things. I want to explain things. I love having people learn.
We think there's value to the call-in show, and we just don't think that anybody's doing it in what we might think is a more conducive way of, like, instead of, hey, we're going to tell you, no, we're going to discuss with you. We're not going to tell you how something is or is not, unless you're really doing something that we're like, okay, no, listen, you've just got this wrong.
Well, I mean, you posted something on Twitter like that. Well, something that was just like so bizarrely wrong about some bill that's being passed, which I'm sure you're going to be talking on that time of the month. Where people just pause and go, wait, I don't think there's any discussion to be had here. This is just wrong. This is bad. This is,
Hold up. I got confused by somebody saying things were political, like everything was political if there's an opposing view. It's like, but I like vanilla ice cream and they like chocolate ice cream. Is this political now? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think everything deserves to be politicized. But I mean, I do think that a lot of the atheist groups are political, and I've been saying that for ages. And of course, the CEO, whatever, the leader of American Atheist now, Nick, whatever his name is, he came out and said it, and I'm like, I've known this years ago. When we had Pam Rissell on, she was the editor-in-chief of American Atheist, and she was very clear to me. And she's like, Steve, we are a political organization. We don't care about philosophy. We are not to be cited as philosophical in nature. We are there to get people to join. That's it.
I don't think that there's a thing with. There's nothing wrong with it being political either. But to say that
they were not honest
to say that it doesn't
people.
care about philosophy when the thing that they're talking about is philosophy is a little bit unreasonable, in my opinion.
A little disingenuous.
I mean, I don't want to call it straight up dishonest, because I do think it's just. I don't think it's like they're going out of their way to lie to people. I just think they're ignorant.
I actually do. I think that if you go to the about,
I think some of them do.
You go to the about section on American Atheist, it's a straight up lie.
Mhm.
I mean, people have wearing out now for 2 years, 3 years now, been explaining it, and people have recognized this to be the case. Where, oh, hey, they say atheism is one thing only. People know that's wrong. I mean, it's just fundamentally flawed, and and so like the atheist experience, people have been saying it's been running its course. It's redundant, has the same things over and over again. Yeah, because they only have people calling in and theists saying, "Oh, well, let me tell you why I believe this, and I don't believe you. Hang up on you. You're stupid." That's the format of the show. It's something more to it than that. And it's just I pointed out, we want to have a discussion.
There's so much more conversation to be had there of saying like, okay, so why do you believe in God? Okay, here's why. All right, why do you think that's convincing? Why is that convincing to you? There's like a whole nother 3 or 4 branches of conversation you could have from that repetitive conversation if you just take that additional step and you're just trying to engage instead of shut the conversation down. If you try to engage the conversation. So if you say, hey, I believe this thing, and you think that's convincing, and you say, okay, well, why do you think that's convincing? Now you can go down the line of that questioning, so they can kind of either reassess, or you can reassess whether or not something ought to be convincing or not. And then it turns into, well, you might find that convincing. Why should anybody else find that convincing? And in some cases, maybe they shouldn't. Maybe it should only be convincing to you.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that's great, actually. Right. I want to know why somebody's convinced of something that other people may not be convinced of.
I want to know why, like, when people say that, oh, I want to use this definition of atheism versus this definition, which makes way more sense and comes with no holes and less baggage, what your reasoning is for why you want to do this. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's colloquial and everybody has an easier understanding about it. It's like, do they? Are you sure?
Nobody will have that. Here's the thing: nobody will have that discussion that is outside our little.
We can't get that far.
Yeah, our little local area. Of followers and subscribers and Patreons and those who watch our videos. Nobody outside of that really wants to have the discussion because they can't. I mean, they literally cannot. I think that they would be, exposing themselves for having so much fundamental misunderstandings of things and unable to actually show logic is wrong. I mean,
and a really bad bias. A really bad, like, malicious, like, dishonest position. Ink Boy for Two said, it's the end of the show as we
I'm not singing it, but thank you, Ink Boy. So like the other day, people may have watched, and I don't know if you had a chance to or not, but I had talked to John, who used to be the program director for Atheist Alliance International. He's no longer. He quit a couple months ago. But he's he was a pretty prominent atheist. In up there in the echelons of people. I mean, if a program director for Atheist Alliance International, that's no small thing. But his logic is horrible. I mean, we had a discussion because he thought the law of identity doesn't relate to reality. And if you haven't watched it, I don't have it on my channel. I don't know if I'm going to upload it or not, but you go to his channel, John Richards. It's under the Free Thought blog, or Free Thought. What is it? Free Thought blog project? Is that what it's called, Chesh? But if you go check it out. But it was really odd, to say the least.
It's the Free Thought Project.
Free Thought Project.
I think
when somebody is that's fundamentally flawed from the get-go, I mean, like out of the gate, prima facie, they're just wrong. Where do you go from that? I mean, I had a philosopher friend of mine.
Stuff. That's all right.
I'm not going to say their name, but a philosopher. But I asked if I could like give what they said, and he said yes. But basically, he had no understanding of philosophy whatsoever, no understanding of logic whatsoever. And the argument was just flawed, just on its face, right? And so when you're leading a group of people, such as an atheist group, and you have such a misunderstanding of logic, why would people take you as a rational person to believe your position is better than any other position, especially when it's not just him? Look at Randolph Richardson. His pays on logic is beyond horrid. It's abysmal. It's horribad. It's one of the most atrocious things, an affront to my eyes that I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen myself naked.
Supposed to be like, isn't he purported to be the leader of some atheist community in Canada?
Yeah, he's the president of Canadian Atheist.
I literally cannot. I cannot. Free. I
know it's hard, right?
Free Thought City.
Yeah, Free Thought.
Free Thought City. I'm annoyed that nobody actually put the link on Twitter either. I had to go to his thing.
I
and
put
then
it on.
Google
I put the link out there on Twitter, didn't I?
No, you did not.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm trying to find it.
Really? I put it on Facebook. I thought I put it on Twitter.
You might have put it on
Well,
Facebook.
if you haven't checked it out yet, did you watch the whole thing?
No, not yet.
It's
I
bad.
don't find it. If I had found the damn thing already, I'd have pulled it from my history.
3 Rusty Nails says, "Is this channel still something you can join?" Yes, I still have membership, and Cheshire has membership for her channel if you like art. So either or both. But yes,
There's nothing. We're still producing content. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we're just changing things up. I got a lot of content that in the back of my head. I'm working on like 3 different projects right now, and I'm going to be doing some math stuff. I'm going to be doing some a project, hopefully with Joe from Answers and Reason, and maybe Trolley Dave.
I found it,
but I'm working on something with that. So I've got stuff in the projects, and then Cheshire has that time of the month, and she's got her art stuff and her Goblin Reads. So we're doing everything jointly and separately. Because we want to advance her channel, we want to get her to have a different reach than my channel, have a different reach, and then the audience that wants to watch both can do so.
And Treepy Line said you did put it on Twitter, so I guess I was wrong.
Oh well, then why did she say I'm gaslighting you? Oh no, she says, oh, you're gaslighting me. Okay.
Yep.
You're making me question my reality here.
Well, I did find the link, so that's the link to the video we were talking about.
Is it gaslighting if it's not intentional?
No, if I'm just wrong.
You're just wrong.
If I'm just wrong, it's not gaslighting. No.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm trying to convince him, knowing that he did do it, that's gaslighting.
Which, by the way, she probably would have done after she would have found out if Treat Feeling hadn't said anything, just to mess with me, because that's Cheshire.
Yeah, I would have just kept going with it. I would have been like, yeah, no, I'm just gaslighting him. It's just happening.
So I mean, we want to get some input from you guys as well on what you guys want to think of this. Like I said, we've already got the layout. We've got, I've worked on a little intro. I mean, we've kind of got things, I think, nailed down. But we want a couple things from our audience. One, we want to, ask if you guys help promote it when we launch it. That's a big thing, getting out on all the social media. And again, I'm not bringing in all my contacts like I will if we're ever, launch Non Sequitur again. I'm not holding my breath for it. But we need some help getting the word out there so people can call in. And we're not expected to be like the Atheist Experience in those numbers. That's not our goal. But the people that are starting to find some of these things are coming over from Facebook groups. And a lot of them are realizing, hey, these conversations that they're having with Cheshire and I are so much different than the conversations they're having on those atheist type channels. Because I mean, look at our conversation like with Randall Rouser. I mean, it was great. I mean, it
was such a good conversation. It was such a good conversation. I love that conversation. Helios 5 says, don't know how many more of these I will have the chance to do. Well, I can. Raise your mugs in toast to fun and informative we had here.
Thank you, Helios. Cheers, man.
Oh, but that sounds really ominous. We're just changing the format.
Yeah, or he's dying. Helios, you're not dying, are you? Yeah.
No, Helios, no.
Yeah.
It's ominous. We're not going anywhere. We're
Brainy
just changing
says,
the
spy checking in. No word on Uni today, Spy Master. Yes. Fun fact: Brainy Beaver was my spy, but I had no knowledge of this. So that's a damn good spy. When you're Spy Master. Wait, no, the spy handler, I guess, right? The spy handler doesn't know who the spy is. That is true spy stuff, right?
Can we get some Trigglypuffs in the chat for Brainy?
I think I can do the Trigglypuff. Okay, so what it is it's colon. What was the thing that I had for it? Colon.
U-hole?
U-hole, yeah. So it's U-hole, but 2 colons. So you put colon, U-hole, colon, and you get the little Trigglypuff thing. So
that's so funny.
Yeah, no, that's really first, and you can see the detail, even though it's so small. It is detailed. It's nice. So
I made it big.
By the way, before we go on to like the what we're trying to do for the new show, did you guys watch the interview I had with John Richards? Again, wasn't my best performance. I'm not even going to say it was. I was very tired. It wasn't bad. I didn't really make any horrible mistakes per se. But I mean, it was just Yeah, and the whole science stuff, the history, I was like, I'm not even going to get into this. I just skip all this because it's just, I don't think he understood a lot of that either. But I just want to get to the meat of it because I knew what his actual argument was about the law of identity. And he doesn't seem to understand there's no temporal component to the law of identity. It's just all of x equals x. There's no variable in there for time. It has nothing to do with time. And to have any argument involving time to say that it doesn't comport with reality, it's just potato equals green. It just makes no sense.
I am enjoying that. If you look at the comment section on this video, it's just answers and reason writing like mini blogs. I love them. They're great.
Oh yeah, no, those two are amazing.
I did a 5-hour stream with them last week, and it was a lot. We went everywhere and talked about everything.
Yeah, I need to get them on more often. I mean, they've been on a few times. But yeah, definitely.
It's a little bit tricky because of time zones.
Well, like I said, I'm working on I have 3 pages of notes on the whole agnostic atheist on a multi-axial system. And I wanted to work with Joe on it and maybe with Dave. I don't think I've talked to him yet about it, but Joe was willing. But I was asking people for, how do you build a system from ground up? I mean, what axioms do we need? And so I have, okay, this is what I think would have to have, let's try to eliminate any ambiguity. And so far, I haven't figured out how to make a coherent system. I personally don't think that you can. However, if somebody develops one, and if I'm able to develop one with somebody, I will say, you know what? There is a possible way this is coherent. I won't like it. I won't use it. But at least I'll be like, okay, sure. I mean, I have to acknowledge logic when it's, reasonable, right? And it's correct. But so far, I personally have never seen a coherent system for that. It's just ambiguous. It's nonsensical or superfluous.
People seem to think that if you acknowledge that something is reasonable, you have to agree with it.
Correct.
You don't. Yeah, you can say that, hey, no, that's a reasonable point of view, or that's a reasonable take on something, and still be like, yeah, but you don't even necessarily have to have like fully fleshed out reasons as to why you don't buy it, because sometimes that's something that happens with time as you think about something, as you sort of process it. And not everything is going to be of value to you to process to that degree. So it's a matter of understanding that, hey, this person can have a viable opinion, a viable position, as in like you can acknowledge that it is reasonable and it exists. You can still not agree with it. And then you could just be like, I can't even explain why I don't agree with it. It just sounds sus to me, but I don't care enough to actually go into why too much. As long as you're not trying to then further engage and tell that person they're wrong. If you go to tell them they're wrong, well, now you need to explain yourself because you've entered that conversation.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Who says, all hail Puck, Lord of Naps, Sticks and Borking. Correct. He's napping. Actually, he's awake right now.
Appreciate it, Helios. Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I mean, there are people that use like the term Gnostic atheist with a G, and even though that is, I could actually argue that is ambiguous. I can actually argue there's different ways to interpret such a thing. It's not a hill I care to die on. It's the agnostic atheist that is really way out there. So if somebody says, they're a Gnostic atheist, and I interpret that as somebody saying, look, I know that God does not exist. I don't really care. Do I use it? No. Right? Because again, I do think that there's ambiguity there, but it's a lesser degree of ambiguity. But there are people out there that will say like Gnostic atheist means that you are certain there's no God. And I'm like, well, that's a whole different ball game, but whatever. But it bothers me that people that use these terminologies know nothing about epistemology. They don't bother to even research any of it, because I can guarantee you right now, you don't see these terminologies in much of the literature. Matter of fact, the wiki pages on it, if you read the talk on it, the people are even saying there's no attestations for these things. There's really no citations for any of this. This is just people saying stuff.
There was somebody yesterday, and they were going on, and Lord Bryant sent them the encyclopedia, like the glossary for philosophy encyclopedia. And then they complained, asking for actual academic sources. And he said, what, like Google, like a Google dictionary? And they said, yes.
I know, I saw that. Somebody actually said, so they're like, what? A Google dictionary is more precise than an academic encyclopedia. And everybody was just like, what?
And then I said, they're like, why would you use this? Like, you think that using this is better than Google? I'm like, yes, I think that when you're talking in that field of study, it makes sense to use sources from that field of study. Why wouldn't? And then they were like, well, we're not talking about philosophy.
Yes, you are.
And I was like, what does it mean to know something? This you?
That's
not talking about
epistemology. That's
philosophy?
philosophy. Yeah, it's like saying, hey, you know, we're going to have a conversation on evolutionary theory, but we're not going to discuss biology. And so
It was so strange.
yeah, it really is. But I personally, I blame the atheist experience and those guys for dumbing people down. I mean, initially they really did it. I mean, I used to watch atheist experience. I thought Tracy Harris did a good job talking about things with theists. The whole social justice went astray. But I mean, when she left, there was no conversation any longer. It was all about just stroking Matt's ego.
I think, yeah, when they all left, although yeah, I agree, I wasn't a big fan of the social justice direction. I think they probably should have just spun off into something else maybe and gone that direction, and then just kind of kept in line with what the ACA originally was doing.
Talk Heathen tried to do that with Eric Murphy, right? And Jamie Boone.
Well, Talk Heathen was way better.
Yeah.
Talk Heathen did like such a good job at doing what it was.
But now they're you know, they're starting to you know, they had a good format, but I think they've long since kind of, because no offense to Eric, the last couple episodes I decided to watch, they were not good. They're great. It's basically just him and Vi, just all kinds of, you know, social justice stuff. I don't find it very interesting.
No, I miss Jamie.
Yeah, no, I don't know what happened to him. He's just vanished off the face of the earth. And by the way, I do like Eric a lot. But yeah, Jamie kind of vanished, and that's a shame. He was a really nice guy.
But when all that went down, there was then nobody to keep Matt in check. And so what happens when somebody cheers you on for behaving in a certain way, you start always behaving in a certain way, and you start kind of blurring the line between who you are in real life and who the character you're playing is, or kind of how you push your personality like a little bit further when you're presenting something. And then this is what happened to Marilyn Manson. Actually, Marilyn Manson was a character, and he was supposed to be like a monster character, and then just slowly, because people appreciated this, people awarded this behavior, and then slowly it just switched and became his actual personality. And it's like that's a thing that can happen when a specific behavior is awarded, and there's nobody around you to be like, okay, listen though, this isn't acceptable in your real life. We like who you are as like a regular person. You don't need to do this, right? And it gets kind of stuck in your ego, and it just.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair thing. And people become, you know, their personage. People that know me personally, I'm not much different in real life than I am here. I mean, I just recently visited, you know, a few friends of mine in India, people know, and I got to hang out with Karma Valley and her husband, and it was great. I mean, it was just, we had a blast. Wonderful people. I mean, seriously, the amount of hospitality they showed was off the chart, and really appreciative of that. But you know, it was like they were exactly what I thought they were going to be. You know, she is who she appears to be on, you know, camera, and I don't like playing a part, and Marilyn Manson was playing a part. I mean, he even admitted that early on. You know, that wasn't really him.
Oh yeah.
But I think, as you may have said, he may have actually transformed into that in real life over time.
Given a long enough period of time, it'd be like if Eminem became Slim Shady. Sort of thing. Like Slim Shady was a character. He is a representation. He's not supposed to be a real life human being. And so when you play, like, didn't that happen to Adam West in Batman? Didn't Adam West like start thinking he was Batman after a little while?
People have said that he kind of got an ego out of it. And I mean, but wasn't the Family Guy or the Simpsons that mocked that?
I don't know how far it got it. There was a couple of them. Yeah. There's a couple of them where he just like becomes that. He is just Batman. He just thinks he's Batman. There's an episode of Kim Possible where there was like some Ferret Man or something. And the old guy who played Ferret Man was living in a cave. He spent his money building this cave, and he was living as if he was Ferret Man. And so like there's just it's a joke, but it's something that happens and look at it on social media. People think William Shatner ought to behave like Captain Kirk. Well, Captain Kirk would have done this, and William Shatner's like, good for him.
Yeah, he definitely separates himself from characters he has played.
there's social media and social pressure that when people see you, this a character's iconic. So when they see you, they think of that character instead of you.
Mhm.
And so when it's rewarded that you behave that way and as that character over and over and over again, if you give into it over time, you're going to start taking more and more and more of those characteristics on until that sometimes you can just lose yourself.
Yeah, Kimomaki points out that Alice Cooper, who I a huge fan of Alice Cooper, always referenced that to Alice as a separate entity, and he always did. He separated himself from that character of Alice, which he did so exceptionally well. I mean, just brilliant.
Yeah, it's about understanding where that line is and how to avoid it. But when it's a more subtle, like with Marilyn Manson, it's pretty easy to tell. At least once upon a time, it was very easy to tell where he ended and the character started. With Alice Cooper, you can see where he ended and the character started. But when you've got something that maybe is a little bit more subtle, where you're just kind of pushing your personality traits, like maybe you're not really that aggressive in real life, and then people are applauding you for being that more aggressive, it's very easy to just become that aggressive, which is something you see a little bit more, I think, with Matt Dillahunty.
Yeah, I think he's become, what he was his personage that he had early on, and like you said, nobody kept him in check. And and the funniest part is, I mean, the reality is this: I got nothing against Matt. I mean, I just don't. I think he puts out misinformation. I think that he doesn't appreciate philosophy as much as he claims to. I think he cares more about politicizing things and making political statements rather than philosophically correct ones. People have told him numerous times he has made fundamental errors. He says he wants to correct
things. Well, there's
things,
also like a fear that gets built up, right? So if you create a character and people like the character, people are afraid that if they find out that you're not really that character, they're not going to like you.
Yeah.
Or they're not going to even like the character anymore because now it's fake. Now it's not real. And so you've got like this sort of ego mixed in. And I don't mean like, oh, narcissistic, oh, I'm so great ego. I mean ego as in like your persona, your sense of value is now under scrutiny or by like of yourself, because now you're like, well, people like this character, they don't really like me. So if I'm not this character, then people aren't going to like me. And it's an insecurity that snowballs.
Yeah, and also that they're the face of this, right? The Pope of Atheism, or a regional director of American Atheists, like Arn was. I don't know if he still is, but they
Right.
can't. They can't concede certain things.
Well, that's the same kind of thing that that pastors run into. They're like, if they start questioning their faith,
yes,
but I'm a pastor. I can't be questioning my faith. I can't be doing this. I'm a leader and people expect to see this thing from me. And if they don't see, you start getting imposter syndrome and you start getting these issues of like, well, I'm supposed to believe this thing. And if I don't believe this thing or I don't behave as in a specific manner, I lose everything. And we've heard people like David Smalley and like Matt and like Aaron, oh, well, if Steve is right about this one definitional thing, my whole life all of my life's work has gone to shit. It's like, no, it hasn't.
If Steve's logic is correct, and yet it's funny is people know
the parallels.
My
right?
arguments are good. I mean, people have recognized this now. They've informed people that are well knowledgeable about these topics have said, hey, look, if you want to go after Steve's argument, you need to actually try to do so. But look at the Venn diagram I have with Landon. If somebody wants to go after that, they need to go after it using logic. And it's never going to happen.
Right.
Matter of fact, it's funny because the Venn diagram I have, I asked Leo, Dr. Eigenstate. Is that what he calls himself, Dr. Eigenstate? But Leonopoulos, we're going to be doing a
Who's great, by the way. He was on Rum and Coke last week.
Yeah, we're going to be doing another Rum and Coke. We want to dive into quantum mechanics, so that's his shtick.
Oh gosh.
But I'm trying to find an expert in quantum mechanics. But we're going to dive into that because there's a lot of topics about quantum mechanics that we really don't really get into. But I would love to drink, have a drink and talk about what is local realism, what is supervisioning, what is entanglement actually mean, because a lot of people they heard these terms, but I don't think they really understand what Bell's inequality is. They don't, and that Venn diagram I have, you can make an actual Venn diagram for Bell's inequality to actually show some of the fundamental things about quantum mechanics, which is very interesting. It's not even that hard. It's basically unions, but I figure we're gonna have a Roman coconut with that.
I think there's another direction you could take to attack your Venn diagram, and it has to do with like the actually having the discussion about semantics. Because we can never get to the actual discussion about semantics because people are too busy denying that this is or is not a viable definition. So I would like to get to that next step of the conversation and have that, okay, well, if you use the term atheism in this way, why? What are the benefits? What are not the benefits? And have that discussion.
I would love to have that discussion with somebody.
I can think of a ton of reasons why it's problematic and going to be more of an issue in the long run rather than the short term. But nobody's able to get to that part of the conversation because they're too busy being like, you're a prescriptivist. No, I want to know why. Why are you using it this way? You're telling me I can't.
When they say, well, you made up this term like weak theism. I'm like, no, I'm not. That you can find that in the literature. I didn't make up that term. I mean, Oppie has used that term before. My argument, I'll be honest with you. My WASP argument is not that novel. The only thing I added to the argument that other people have noted before, I wasn't the first person to note this, but I added in the special pleading to it, right? That's what I added to that argument because it is an if then else in that case. But the if then, as far as the terminology, I didn't come up with that. I never even claimed to. That's in the literature. And Oppie has recognized the exact same thing that I pointed out. And I'm a huge fan of Oppie.
Exploratory Minds for 5 said, some people have ideas, some ideas have people, silly phase.
Sure.
I mean, yeah. When you just look at Batman, when you lose yourself to the concept, Batman isn't even a person anymore. Yeah. And I mean the character, I don't mean like the writers. I think the writers for the most part have done a good job. I mean, like, Batman is no longer a person. He has given up humanity. He's given up being an individual for quote unquote the sake of Gotham and for quote unquote the sake of justice or whatever. But
Justin has notes. He says, yeah, the logic in your WASP argument is air and water tight. I believe so as well. It doesn't take even much knowledge in the topic. Just understanding the concept of a double negative is needed, which, by the way, it's not a double negative because that's some of the problem. They're like, wait a minute, you're using a double negative. No, I'm not. One's on the predicate, one's on the proposition. And again, I only use first and second year logic. Anything beyond that, I think would be lost. I've tried to use some modal logic and it's not, but I had a very dear friend of mine who gave me some very sage advice a long time ago. He's like, look, it's great to be precise, but you don't need to be hyper technical as far as the logic. Okay. If you notice, my logical arguments are not structured in what you would normally find for a logical argument. Now I can do the other one. I've shown that I can take the logic to the middle and derive the law of non-contradiction by using logical inferences in a logical proof checker, right? I call it a natural logic checker. I do understand those things, but I have no desire to use any of that when I'm making an argument because there's no need to. I mean, I want to make it in a very easy to use format. If somebody wants to go check the logic, some natural logic checker, they can, but I want the argument to be read in a common parlance kind of thing. And I've done that ever since because, why do I need to, okay, well, you have a, what is it, like MP23 for modus ponens 2 to 3, or DAM for De Morgan, and elimination and all this stuff. It's just, sure, it's great to learn, but I don't use it that much to make it of interest to me to write those kinds of proofs. Does that make sense?
Well, the thing is, okay, I was kind of talking about this with somebody who does a little bit more. I was talking about this with Res Rhetoric, who does a little bit more flat earth debunking. And he's like, it's not hard to say rocks don't have cognitive abilities, and so rocks can't hold an opinion because they can't assess the situation. This is like really base level stuff. And he's like, when you're talking to flat earthers, you're talking about gravity, you're looking at like actual equations, and these equations and trigonometry is far more complicated than this simple topic. And I'm like, okay, but when you're talking to flat earthers, they're talking on this level of understanding. They might not understand it, but they are talking about concepts that aren't 1 + 1 = 2. this is how behind we are in philosophy. We are not at the 1 + 1 = 2 part. We're having that conversation. 1 + 1 = 2. No, it doesn't. Okay, listen.
Yeah, no, they're not even at the fundamental levels. Yeah.
Yeah, we're dealing with people who are not even able to acknowledge that they're speaking about philosophy. They don't even understand what topic of science they're in. Like at least flat earthers acknowledge that they're talking about physics and geometry. We're not even that level.
What would Red say if somebody said something along the lines of, oh, I would love, I know all about rocket science, but it has nothing to do with thermodynamics.
Right.
What?
Right.
So combustion doesn't have to do with the transfer.
Listen, I'm just talking about this particular engine. I'm not talking about engineering.
Yeah, and that's what they do. And again, it's very.
What? I'm just talking about fuel injection.
When somebody mentions the word atheist or theist, I don't know how it would be in any other connotation other than philosophy. Now, the term agnostic can be used outside of philosophy. This I'll grant. But the term atheist or it is a philosophical position, and yes, it can mean many different things. I mean, in fact, I've shown it can mean at least 6, 7, 8 different things. And by the way, I was being very generous. There was more than that. I was very, very limited because there's a lot more ways to use that term, and that's fine. I don't care. But as Cheshire astutely pointed out, if somebody uses it in a different way, then what is the ramifications of that? Right? Like T-Jumps.
That's an interesting conversation. Yeah, no,
like for example, I don't agree with T-Jumps usages, right? But T-Jump says, well, atheism is the position. There's no good reason to believe in God. Okay, let's explore this, and people have, and they pointed out there's problems with that. Go figure. But I don't care how people use a term, and I'm not a prescriptivist. What I care about is, does it make sense? Is it coherent? Is there baggage with it? Just right now, we never get past that with people. I mean, when we tried that with Smalley, it was like beating our head against the wall.
I legitimately asked him at one point. He said, well, I use the term this way, and here's why. I said, okay, but if you do that, you have these ramifications. So what about this? And he just ignored me. But so, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, there's the interesting part of the conversation. Just denialism isn't that interesting. No, isn't really it's not a valid.
Isn't that what all atheism is nowadays?
Rejection is not refutation. And yeah, because of things like the atheist experience and things like these sorts of people saying no, it equals some kind, I don't believe you, is refutation. It's like, no, it's not. It's not a refutation. It just means you personally aren't buying it, and you're not even explaining why. You're shutting down the conversation. So you've got these people that are bloviating about how we're trying to normalize and open up the conversation and have this conversation, and they're doing nothing but shutting the conversation down. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like somebody just said, we're still on the definition of atheism. As soon as somebody says that, they're not even at the level of having a discourse. Because it has nothing to do with, there's no such thing as the definition of anything. It has nothing to do with that.
No, that's Steve. That's too nice of you. Your response is, that sounds pretty prescriptivist of you.
Yeah, right? I'm the one saying that words have multiple usages, right? But, when we do have this newer format and we do have people calling in, we want to make sure that people realize it's not just about theism. It's not just about atheism. It's not just about agnosticism. It's about anything. People can call in and talk about anything. And so that's why I think the formats can be completely different. Because these other talk shows have things like that. People call in and they, I think, Objectively Dan has Truth Wanted and, Talk Heathen with Eric. It was at a time you could talk about anything you want, but I think they've kind of like, you can't talk about certain topics.
I don't mind having more SJWE type conversations. I don't want to go down the route of becoming SJW, but I don't mind the topics that SJWs are talking about, because I think those topics have value. I think it's valuable to talk about normalization and what is acceptable to be normalized and what isn't acceptable to be normalized, and why or why not, and kind of where you go and how you approach these conversations. I don't like SJW tactics, although most of the time I do agree with whatever their initial issue is.
Right? Yeah, well, and that's why people can call in and ask our opinion on these things. Right. I mean, you remember the motto for Non Sequitur show, opinions are sacred. I still hold to that. I think that people should have their opinions, but those opinions should be tested. They should be, argued. They should be, given pros and cons of things. Like you said, the types of shows that I've seen that have call-in, a lot of it is just straight up denialism. They don't put forth a lot of evidence either way. They think that the caller who calls in has the entire burden of proof, which we know now is complete nonsense. Anybody who has a position has a burden of proof. Sorry, guys. Sorry, you the lacktheist out there. Atheists have a burden of proof, period. It doesn't matter whether you're a lacktheist or positive.
I tried to explain
it
that.
It doesn't matter. You have a burden of proof.
I tried to explain this to this guy that came in on Twitter, the white knighting for this woman who was like, oh, talking about knowledge isn't philosophy. The person who came into like white knight for her was saying that they said, so if I don't believe what this person says, am I justified? Yeah. Why wouldn't you be? And then I was like, then you've made the claim Christians are crazy because they believe this. I don't believe what they believe. Am I justified? And I said, sure, but you need to explain why. So why do you think Christians are crazy for this?
See, I would be like, I don't know if you're justified or not. That doesn't tell me about your justificatory conditions. You know,
the answer was, as I was saying, yes, as in yes, you could be.
Could be, yeah.
Right. So they then had responded with, well, they described the belief and said that they thought that was irrational. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But why are Christians crazy?
Yeah.
And then they repeated that. And I'm like, that doesn't answer the question. You made a claim. Christians are crazy for these reasons. Why? Why does this equate to this?
Yeah, and my pushback has always been on that. I don't think they are justified to say that because crazy or delusional implies some kind of malfunctioning of the mind. It means the mind is doing something that it shouldn't be doing. It has an error. And a false belief is not an error. I could believe something that isn't true, but
not that kind of error.
Well, I mean, there are, there could be in theory, what's called theory of perception. There's different things like hallucinations, illusions, and then veridicality, which means that something is actually the case ontologically or reality wise. But an illusion is just, your mind playing tricks on you. But a hallucination is a completely different form of perception. So in theory of perception, there's different ways of looking at things. But that hallucination is a type of delusion, right? It's not just a false belief. It is the mind creating something that doesn't have any correspondence to reality in a way that your mind's doing the trickery, right? But having a false belief is not a delusion, right? People could say, well, look, if you claim you sat down and had a chess game with Jesus and you honestly believe that, you might be delusional. Sure, right? I'm not saying that delusions don't happen with theists.
Don't happen.
Absolutely, it can happen. But in and of itself, to have a belief that Christianity is true or God exists can nowhere in and of itself be a sole reason why somebody is crazy or delusional. And so when Chester is asking, what are your justifications for this? Right? You need more than that.
It's not all Christians would fall under. You might have a couple that do. You might have a couple that do fall under this sort of delusional mindset, but the majority, I think, do not. So you run into this problem where, congratulations, you've personally justified it to yourself because eventually you did this, and this. These are why I think this is crazy. Now you have to get into the conversation about, okay, well, now I don't understand what you think crazy is, because I think now we're using different definitions. But I didn't go down there. I said, congratulations, that's your personal justification. You did it. You met your personal burden of proof. Good job. And then he ended the conversation. I'm like, but you started this by asking, like he lost track of the conversation. He was asking, would I be justified? Sure.
I think a better way for them to say it is irrational. Matter of fact, there are definitions of atheism out there, which is based on irrationality, that is not rational to believe God exists. And that's perfectly fine. People can talk about those things. And again, there's a lot of ways to use these terms. You can have that discussion, yeah. And I don't even have an issue with some of them per se. I mean, I don't particularly use them myself because I think they're not really anything more than just stipulative type descriptions. But whatever. I mean, but if somebody wants to say, look, I hold the position that God doesn't exist and it's irrational to believe there's a God, okay, give me your reasons. I may not hold your particular reasons. I may say, look, I don't agree with you, but you're not saying that's a contradiction or anything, right?
Yeah, it's not. It's internally consistent.
Yeah,
because there's also this whole other issue where because places like the ACA have built their brand of atheism off of being rational. If you say that's not rational, they get mad real fast because they think you're treating them the way they've been treating religious people, and they don't like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you
like
don't get
that at
anywhere.
all.
Look, if theists sit there and say, "Look, I think atheism is irrational," and an atheist says, "Look, I think theism is irrational." Okay, great. Both part. Look, I mean, I could sit there and say, "Hey, I think it's irrational to vote for Trump," and somebody could say, "I think it's irrational to vote for Trump." Who? Whatever. I mean, you could argue, but I want to know why,
no
right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I want to know why you think it's irrational. That's all. And I don't see a lot of discussion on that, right? People don't.
I don't care about what your opinion is. I care about why you hold that opinion.
Right. Super chat.
Atheist Miracle for 5 says, Chesh is hot in the body and Steve is hot in the mind. Love you guys. Chesh is also hot in the mind. No, thanks.
So what about my body? By the way, as you guys know, for this show and the upcoming show that we're planning to watch, we're not going to give you guys the title, by the way. It's almost obligatory to mention the looks of the host. We love it. I love when you watch. I swear, on Atheist Experience or Talk Heathen or any of those things, you see anything. It's like, hey, Chesh, you have a nice shirt today. Please don't comment on the looks of the host or what they're. No, it's obligatory. Matter of fact, our mods have to at least once a show tell us how amazing we look. It's requirement. They'll be fired if not.
All questions must be phrased in the form of a compliment.
In fact, Trolley Dave has not mentioned my hair today. My luxurious hair.
I just found an article that says McDonald's and other CEOs are telling investors that 15 minimum wage won't hurt their business. Yeah, no shit. Of course it wouldn't hurt your business. Shocking.
So anyways, thank you, that Atheist Miracle. Cheshire's hot in the body and mind. I'm just hot in the mind. But hey, you know what? You haven't seen my body, you never will. But no, actually, one of these days, I'm getting back in shape. Cheshire, I look okay. People have seen me. I'm not in bad shape I mean, I used to be a little tubby, but yeah, I've gotten down.
A top executive at Denny's told investors that gradual increase in the minimum wage haven't been a problem for the company at all. In fact, California's law raising the minimum wage to $15 by 2023 has actually been good for the diner chain's business, according to Denny's chief financial officer. Then why do you need the government to tell you to do it if it's good for the business? You can do it without the government telling you to.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously it has to be greater than the federal, I think, is $7.25 or something. And I have no problem with higher paid wages, but there is a point where higher paid wages affect what's called your productivity. Your what is it called? The law of diminishing returns. Right. So as you increase your minimum wage and you have so much that you can use to hire personnel, there is a point where you have to have a limit. Yeah,
there is there is such a thing as budgeting.
Yeah.
But you can take from here and reinvest it over here to mitigate that change, because that's where this money should have gone in the first place.
Yeah, of course, and I don't think 15 is that bad. But yeah,
it's 15 wouldn't be that bad now. This is 15 by 2023. Yeah. Now it's 2 years away to get to 15, right? So that's a 2 years of redistributing and which makes sense. I understand, like, not an instant jump because you have to reroute and move where that money is going, and sometimes that takes time. Fine. Okay, but why haven't you saved that money for a rainy day? Yeah. Fuckers.
Well, I mean, as somebody who worked in retail, I know budgets all too well. I mean, when they only give you a certain amount of money to work with, they ain't messing with. I mean, you have to you have to pray in order to get any additional funds. Yeah. It's not going to happen. Just like prayer. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, theist. But it is very difficult because you only have so many hours, and this is my budget for my employees, and that's based upon usually sales and productivity. So if you have low sales for whatever reason, you have less workforce. It's just how it is.
Well, yeah, here's the article I'm looking at, by the way. But it also changes when you have an international company, because an international company or a company that has like so many different chains, you can be making more money over here and make a little bit less over here and still maintain your area over here because you're able to reroute money that's coming from over here. 8.45 says customers have more money to spend is good, question mark. Who would have known that?
Yeah, they put it back in the economy, right? Yeah, that is very much true. Yeah.
That it makes sense that the people who are working at Applebee's ought to be able to afford to eat at Applebee's.
Yeah, and with a substantial discount too. I think I'm a big believer in perks. I think that a lot of jobs that have the perks are the ones that people want to work for. Much more than without perks.
People who work at pizza places should get free pizza. Period.
Yeah, those companies are not going to go out of money by giving food away. They're just, it's not going to happen. And so, if not free, at least with a huge 80%, 90% discount.
You get a medium pizza, at the very least. A medium $2 pizza or a medium cheese pizza for $2 if you work there.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I worked at Kohl's, we had things that were like 90% off. Plus, I had my personal discount. I mean, I bought stuff dirt cheap. I mean, it was great. It was the only benefit of working for Kohl's.
I just don't understand, because like this is stuff that's naturally healthy and good for a business, but because everything is so mucked up in how people think capitalism operates versus how capitalism is currently operating versus how capitalism is supposed to operate, the capitalists need the government to step in to help a business understand what is good for a business. This is absurd. This is so absurd to me. Like, how did we get here?
I mean, I understand concern for profitability with a business. I get that, but a lot of companies have put profitability ahead of anything else. Like I watch a lot of, I don't know if you ever watch them on YouTube, but I watch a lot of these undercover things.
It's not even like the profitability. It's the profit. It's how much money is one guy making, not even how much money is the business making.
Sure. But I mean, do you ever watch any of those undercover things where people go in and they
yeah.
So I mean, I remember watching one
of the places once.
I remember watching one. It was on Econolube. Right, and Econolube, I don't know if you have them up in Canada, but they're basically like Jiffy Lube. They're basically a really quick oil change thing that you can get. And this actually was in Canada. You do have in Canada, because the one I watched, if I remember correctly, was from Canada. But they would get people to say, come in for a quick $19.99 oil job, right? And then they would upsell you to a $29 package or a $39 package, and then brake flush and fluid, a replacement for your radiator, a whole bunch of stuff. People that worked there had no experience with cars for the most part, and it was all about upselling. That was the entire thing. Wells Fargo had a very similar thing, and I knew people that worked for Wells Fargo, and they were threatened to be fired if they didn't open new accounts, and they would fraudulently open new accounts. They would, instead of opening one account for the people, that opened multiple, and the people didn't even know. They would open fictitious ones. They had to, or else they'd be fired. And it's a shame, right? Because they were doing things that were unethical.
It's not good business.
Right. Well, look, and what happened was,
it's just artificially inflated numbers. It's not even like there's nothing there.
But the CEO is the one that makes these decisions, and the CEO wanted these things to happen. The CEO of Econolube, that's how they marketed it. And of course, they got busted big time for that. And then Wells Fargo had been sued for billions of dollars they had to pay on this thing, right? And they held it. We changed their entire system.
My mom says back in the day when I managed at Bootlegger, I got 50% off of everything. They don't offer that anymore. So the question is
why?
This company has gotten bigger and bigger and made more and more profit, and they were able to offer it when they weren't making that much profit. And now that they make more profit, they don't offer that anymore.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the profit. It has nothing to do with the profitability. It's bullshit.
Yeah,
they could easily afford it, and they just don't.
Well, here's the thing, though: the people in charge who make these decisions shouldn't be the ones in charge making these decisions. I mean, just because somebody has made it to CEO doesn't mean they're any good. Matter of fact, when I worked for Circuit City, they had made a decision to put all their investment in a thing called DivX, and that didn't go over very well. And matter of fact, I think it was in 2007, if I'm not mistaken. People can look it up. The CEO of and this was just before they went bankrupt. The CEO of the company was voted like the worst CEO of all time, or at least of the decade. When I got let go I was laid off. When I got let go from Circuit City, they had laid off their top 5%. Well, I think it was more than that, but at least I was in the top 5%. So they laid off their top sales force because we were making commission, right? And people that know who has ever made commission, you can make bank on commission. I mean, there were people that are making six figures at my store. Those were in the bigger high ticket TV stuff, but I did okay. I was making decent money. But they were like, oh, you know what? Why do we pay these commission people? let's get an hourly sales force like Best Buy model had, is what they figured.
Right.
What happened was they lost their entire customer base because they didn't plan ahead to think, wait a minute, why are people going to Circuit City over Best Buy? If you want somebody who doesn't know shit from Shinola back then, go to Best Buy, you get some decent prices. But if you go to Circuit City, we had the trained people. We had a lot of training that Best Buy didn't have. And so when people came to us to ask for our opinions and stuff, we sold them what they needed, and we did a great job of it. But they changed their entire business model.
Make for
but they let the entire they didn't. Think about this, Chesh. They didn't fire the bottom people. Yeah. They fired the top people. They gave us severance packages, right? They said,
Yeah, right.
And I don't think I've ever told this story before, Chesh. But you know how they let us all go? I'm not even fronting. What they did was they said, hey, we have a mandatory meeting. We need all the people to show up for this mandatory meeting. And this was in 2003, I believe it was. And we all got led into a room. And everybody who's in this room was I recognize it as the high end people, but no idea what was going on. And they took us out of the room one by one, and sat down with the manager, who was an asshole, go figure. But they said, we'd like to thank you for your last how many years of service. Here we're giving you a severance package, and we are changing things, and we're laying our workforce off. And it was several $1,000s for a severance package. It was, so they didn't have to do that. But it was so, you work for a company, right? And to be treated like that. So like, just going to toss you aside by bringing you in a room and say, look, here's a severance package. Have a nice day. No warning whatsoever. And then we're all outside in the parking lot talking about what the hell just happened. That's not how you treat people. And what happened to Circuit City? They're no longer around.
It's bad business.
It's very bad business.
Helios said it's based on greed. The boss makes policy not what's best for the company or even themselves in the long run. They make policy based on what's best for their pocketbooks immediately. Yes, it's short term versus long term, and it's missing out on like what would be what people should be aiming for. And I think I'm starting to see this. It's starting to happen. Like I'm starting to see this mentality take a little bit more root, but it hasn't made it to larger companies yet. And it's a shift in mentality that profit is great and all, and growth is great and all, but you need to plateau to make something stable. Plateau, then grow. Plateau, then grow, instead of just constant more, because that's not sustainable. It's about sustainability. And seeing that, I'm starting to see that change, but it's not there yet. It's going to probably be another generation or two before that actually finishes taking root in society, or I shouldn't say society. I mean, like in business.
Well, yeah, because it's a very short-term mindset they have. And what happens when going back to the Circuit City?
It's a selfish short-term.
They had spent a lot of money on renovations. They had spent a lot of money on doing stuff that wasn't important compared to the stuff that they probably should have been putting money into.
It's what happened to Target in Canada. They just got screwed.
Yeah, and look at like companies like Google. That's considered like one of the best companies to work for, right? I mean, it's really chill kind of stuff. And I think that a lot of companies that are putting so profit minded, where they're really to sacrifice their ethics,
right,
they don't do very well in the long run. And I see this all the time, even in our daily experience with people. People look in the short term. I play the long game. Cheshire plays the long game. In fact, probably even longer than I am. She's got things that she's been working on for like 5 years. So.
Brainy says when my McDonald's goes from $20 to $30 per meal. So the thing is that a lot of the time,
it is $20 right now. You know how expensive McDonald's is?
It's already there, and people aren't getting paid. So the inflation is happening, and it's not the money that ought to be going back into the company, to the employees, and to the stores isn't.
You really need a small loan in order to have a Big Mac meal nowadays. Now I don't eat that much fast food. It's been forever.
And then
since
I don't know if Brainy's changed their mind.
Expensive. Last time I went,
I don't know if Brainy's changed his mind by now, but he says you guys are totally ignoring what this will do to the lower middle class. We're talking about the lower middle class.
I don't think we are. As a matter of fact, I mean it's the lower middle class that has been screwed most of since capitalism has been around is a lower middle class.
Upping the minimum wage is to help the lower.
Who pays the most amount of taxes? The lower middle class.
Exactly.
It certainly ain't the upper class.
It's about redistributing the money in a more sustainable way, because right now all of the resource, which is the money resource, money is a resource, all of the resource is going to one place when it needs to be spread out amongst throughout the company. Because if you put too much of one resource in one spot, it's going to, like, if it's water, you're going to drown. If it's food, you're going to gorge. If it's, and these people are going to starve, this part of your company is going to starve, and this part of your company is going to drown, and this part of your company is going to be dehydrated. You're killing your own company by doing this. Yeah. And it's only and the thing is that it is only a matter of time. It does not matter how big your company is. But if you want a good example, go look at McDonald's in different countries, because different countries have different minimum wage and different rules for what they can and cannot do. And look at the change in the amount of money it costs for a meal, and relate it to how much those people are getting paid. Because in, I think one of them, it's like the amount it changed was $1. So everybody is now making $15 or $16 or $17 an hour, and they raised the price of food by $1. They raised the menu by $1.
And Brady makes a great point, and I'm not discounting that. A lot of these things are very razor thin profit margins. I completely understand that, especially like in Kohl's, we had razor thin profit margins on a lot of things because things were sold at a discount, even though we obviously know that suggested manufacturer retail price is bullshit. Let's be honest, right? So if they're saying, look, we're half off, it's about normal price. I mean, this is how retail actually is.
Right. This is missing that all of the resources going to a place. So it doesn't, if your profit margin can be razor thin, that's fine. It's the quantity that you're selling. So if you've got one person and they're getting paid $7 an hour and your profit margin is like 2%, you're getting 50 cents on every burger. This person works for 8 hours and costs you X amount of money off of that 7, right? But how many burgers are they selling?
Yeah.
Because that profit margin may only be 2%. It may only be 50 cents. But if this one person who's only costing you, say, I don't know, say it's 10 hours and it's costing them $70. They're making $70 a day. And you're making it 50 cents. And they're selling more than the amount that they're costing you. It doesn't matter. When you're selling that much, when you're dealing with these numbers that are this big, it's not this big of numbers. It might seem like, oh, they're only making 50 cents. Yeah, but it's 50 cents on like thousands of burgers.
Well, it's by volume. That's how a lot of these companies survive. It's by volume, even though it's a razor thin margin. But this is how companies do put it toward the overall. If they have any. They raise wages. They do put it on the back end, right? And then that's the customer. They raise prices, which, by the way, I don't think is a good idea. I think that is a fundamental mistake in economics.
Tim Hortons is, as far as I'm concerned, legitimate thievery. Burger King, which is the company that bought Tim Hortons, has done nothing but do everything that they can to run that company into the ground and steal from it based off of its name recognition. That's what's going on. And that's not and nobody's blaming the franchise owners. The franchise owner, like the individual stores, because the individual stores aren't responsible for the distribution of all of the wealth that they bring in. The percentage gets taken and they're left to hang to deal with whatever peanuts have been left behind. Yeah, that's still these guys' fault. That's still this money that needs to go down and back.
And how much is a meal?
The franchising they sued them for more than one. They sued them for a couple of things.
Yeah, franchises has some major issues. How they do franchising and stuff of that nature. But how much does a meal cost nowadays? You go to McDonald's, you go to big Burger King. You're paying $12 for a meal. I mean, that used to be like half that, right? I mean, seriously, it's an obscene amount for a hamburger, a soda, which is cheap as shit. I mean, let's be realistic. They make more money off soda than they do anything else. Because a soda that costs them pennies on the dollar, and they charge you $2 for it, kind of thing, right? So they have a pretty good profit margin on the soda, and that's where they probably make most of their money. But when you have a company that is building more, for example, like McDonald's or whatever, you're building all these different, buildings and these franchises and things and they're expanding too quickly. That I think is the problem, because now you have, you look, I got three McDonald's. You can go up to like where I'm at, you can get three McDonald's like around the corner from each other. Who needs that? Wow, they're probably franchises. But don't you think that you have market saturation?
You've got a couple of different problems, and it's essentially that at the end of the day, you have a handful of people that are running things in a way that is going to destroy themselves. And who's going to get hurt the most by them destroying themselves? Not them. It's the lower middle class people that are going to get regularly fooked. Regularly. They're the ones that are going to suffer. They're the ones that aren't going to be able to do jobs. They're the ones that are working two full-time jobs and not getting paid for their work. And all it takes is better resource management. All you need to do is go in there and redo the budget, redo it, and clean it up and make it so that you have something sustainable. It's not like McDonald's can't be a sustainable company and has to do things
and they're global wide, right? But yeah,
how many times has the price for burgers gone up, and how many times has minimum wage gone up?
Well, and minimum wage isn't. I can't remember the last time it went up.
So if minimum wage isn't going up and the price of burgers is going up, then the artificial artificial inflation on the burgers.
But Chesh, what happens when the burger price is going up? Demand goes down, right? I mean, I guarantee, especially with the pandemic, people are not buying as much fast food as they were before. I mean,
yeah. John in the chat says McDick's coffee is greater than Tim's coffee now, in my opinion. That's because the McDonald's coffee is the old Tim's coffee.
It's got good coffee. I do like McDonald's coffee. I'm not going to front. Their coffee is spot on.
That's because it's Tim's coffee. It's the Tim Hortons blend. You want to know how that happened?
They bought it?
When Burger King bought Tim Hortons, they tried to undercut the deal that they had for the blend and the beans they were buying for the coffee. And so the guys who owned the coffee were like, no, screw you. And McDonald's said, we'll pay for that. We'll take that. We'll take that right now. So McDonald's came in, swooped in, grabbed it while they were negotiating. Well, Burger King was trying to undercut them. So now the McDonald's coffee is the Tim's coffee. That's why McDonald's coffee suddenly became good and McCafe became a thing.
Did you get that super chat? I don't remember.
Yeah, we kind of half read it, and we were still talking. Brady Beaver for Two said owners sued the franchise in Canada to raise price in Tim Hortons. Yeah, so Tim Hortons had some problems as soon as they were bought by I keep saying McDonald's, Burger King. So one of them was that they were charging out the ass for supplies. So there's like what they do is Tim Hortons has like a warehouse, and then the franchises buy from the warehouse, and the overall company does the warehouse and does all the purchasing of like bulk sugar and all that stuff. And so then you buy from that, and that's how they do it.
Yeah. So go ahead.
But what they started doing is they jacked up the prices for the franchise owners, so that to the point where they were buying from local grocery stores instead because of how much it was costing them. For like straws. It's absurd.
Somebody had posted something about pizza, and it's funny because my roommate is a big pizza fanatic, right? And years ago, before I started cooking for myself, I ordered a lot of Domino's, and Domino's has gotten. And by the way, I like Domino's. Their pizza has gotten so much better than it used to be because they recognized that their pizza was shit before, and we changed everything, and they did a good job. I like their pizza; it's good. But it is expensive as fuck. And my roommate, who was order pizza all the time from him, finally realized this. I stopped ordering from Domino's ages ago. Maybe I'll treat myself every now and then, but it's been a very long time. But he found out, mile that way, Winco has pizza for like $6 or $7 for a full pizza. That's just as well. It may not be just as good, but it's still good. But it's like a fraction of the price. So guess where we go get pizza now? It's only like a mile.
Usually when it comes to pizza, one of the best things you can do is find a local pizza place that's not a franchise. So find like the one pizza place or the two pizza places that are in your city that are mom and pop pizza places.
No, absolutely. I think
their pizza will be better and it will not be as expensive.
Oh, I guarantee it. The calzones are better. But my point is that like Costco does pizza right. I mean, they have amazing food, Costco, and they're cheap, right? And they sell a lot of it, but people are there to buy other stuff. It's kind of like an add-on kind of thing that they have for it, but they recognize that people love this stuff, and they sell a lot of it. when you raise prices so high that people stop buying, then you have a problem because now people are not buying as much because, like, you know, like I stopped buying Domino's because it got too damn expensive. I would have probably still if it would have been the old prices.
This is what happens when you buy something, when you try to sell something at an overprice than the value, because that's basically how the market works. The market works by saying, hey, listen, I'm not willing to pay this much, and so they either have to adjust their prices or they go out of business, right? And so that can happen to McDonald's. If McDonald's were to, and McDonald's is a little bit bigger, so it's a little bit more complicated than that, but if McDonald's were to overprice what people think is worth whatever the value is, that's how you get things like crazy stocks like the GME stock and the GameStop stock.
Oh, God.
Is that the stock isn't really worth that much, so it's all an overinflated price, and then people are responding with, but I just like the stock though. But if you look at the changes that GameStop has made, they replaced their CEO. They changed upper management and they started reinvesting into their stores. So the GameStop store, one of the newer ones, are completely unrecognizable from what they were, because what they were was just like wasting money left, right. I know, I worked there. what they've done now is they've put in computers and they've put in like basically LAN parties. So then they've invested in internet. They've invested in like adding drinks and stuff. They've invested into, yeah, you can buy games here, but this is now a place to go and hang out and play games with your friends. Here's arcade type style stuff that's all been mixed in. And so when you go to they've taken the opportunity. Do you remember when we talked about this? And I said, GameStop has an opportunity. They've been given a breath of fresh life, and they have an opportunity to do something.
They just cashed in some of that stuff. I mean, I was like, they just bought a bunch. They just took advantage of that. Yeah, it devalued the stock, but they capitalized on that. They took cash out on it.
Right, but it's also revitalized their company. It's revitalized that people are now interested in going and spending money there. And if they didn't take advantage of the opportunity, they would have been really dumb.
The advertisement for GameStop has been off the charts because of the Robinhood.
Right. But they've done such a good job with, if they keep going in that direction, the price that this overpriced stock isn't going to be overpriced anymore. Those people were correct and justified for investing the money they did because the company made the changes. The company did the job of the company, which means that these people who are like, oh, no, it's just not worth it. It's just overpriced and fake inflated because some trolls were wrong. Because what the company needed was that boost, and it got the boost and did something with it. So the value is there.
Yeah, and
weird, right?
And I think there's a huge caveat. What like somebody just said, they said Speedy Smoke said Chester's wrong when it comes to the mom and pop pizza places. They usually are way more expensive because they aren't mass produced and make most of their ingredients. That really depends on the locality more than anything else. I've got some mom and pops down here that maybe a little bit, but
you're going to the wrong mom and pops.
Yeah, you're going to the. I mean, like for example, there's this really amazing. Mexican place that's not far from us. They are primo, right? They are a lot more expensive, but you get so much more. You get this amount rather than this amount from one of the more, I say mass-produced type Mexican places around here. So it depends on what you want, right? Yes, it's a little bit more, but you get a lot for your value, and it's so fresh. It's so good. So it really depends on what you're looking for. And again, it depends on where the prom pop thing is. If you go into a mall, it's going to be a lot more expensive because of the cost to rent the place as opposed to some other localities. So that I think makes a huge amount of difference.
Yeah. The thing is if your mom and pop place is charging more, like especially if it's like excessively more, then they might just be overvaluing, or they might not just have the resources, which is fine. Don't go to that mom and pops. You picked the wrong one. Go find another one.
Costco. Hey, I'm telling you, I don't know if you got Costco up there and ever tried their pizza, but Costco's pizza is freaking amazing. Somebody had mentioned Safeway pizza. I haven't tried theirs, but no, Costco's got it right, man. They make a hell of a pizza. But yeah, I don't go to GameStop because there's just nothing there for me. That I'm not a PlayStation person. I'm not an Xbox person. I've used them before, but I'm a PC.
Master race.
I'm not a console person. And I guess if you're doing PvP, console's probably better, but
No.
I like PC.
No, it depends on what kind of game you're playing. So consoles are it really just depends on what you're doing. Consoles normalized gaming and opened gaming up to a lot more people because PC gaming once upon a time was really complicated. It still can be complicated if you make it complicated, but it doesn't have to be. There are games that are like free to play, open it up, download it, and play the game. But now console games are moving more towards behaving like PC gaming. So like we don't need to have physical copies anymore. You don't need to have a huge setup anymore. But also at the same time, like Sony, like the PlayStation 5 is based, and the Xbox, whatever it's called, I don't remember, are all they're basically built with computer parts in mind now. So you're basically running a computer. It's just a very specialized computer to play these specific games, which is why we all know Nintendo wins, because Nintendo's the only one making a console that actually like makes sense to have a console for, instead of just waiting for the game to come out on PC.
Yeah, no, I do like free games. I have Steam and I have EA, even though people hate EA, but hey, free's free. And most of them are the same stuff. And I haven't played like a game in ages. I played Destiny 2 for quite some time last year. The new year hit, and they had a new season, and I haven't played any of the new season. I won't. I lost interest.
Pokemon Snap is coming out.
What is?
Pokemon Snap game.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't know what Pokemon Snap is?
I don't play Pokemon.
It was an N64 game that came out where you took the goal. You're on a track and you go through an area like a beach or a tunnel or a cave, and there's Pokemon in their natural habitat, and you take pictures of the Pokemon. The Pokemon Snap. And so finally, since the N64, we're getting a new Pokemon Snap game on the Switch, and I'm so
Epic Games. Yeah, what I say. It was Epic Games. People hate Epic Games, but I have Epic, and they have free games every so often. But anyways, I do got a couple updates. You want some updates?
God, I buy stuff at Walmart. Ugh.
I got some updates, Chesh.
Yeah.
Because we're getting at the 90-minute mark. So people wanted an update on my mom. Thank you for all the well wishes. My mom has been moved from the ER general area. She has a assisted living, a nursing thing. She's not really cognizant. Eye movement, but no speech, some smiling. They've stopped all treatment, as far as I'm aware. It is obviously a hospice type situation, but at least she's comfortable and has palliative care. So who knows what will happen? But my biggest concern was my mom was actually moved from a facility into a general ER area. Because she was supposed to go to what's called a boarding home, but a boarding home only allows for people that are self-sufficient. She is not obviously self-sufficient, and they couldn't intake her because instead of going to a hospice, went to a boarding home. So she is in a good place now. She has her own room, even though, like I said, I did get a chance to go visit her in the hospital. She wasn't aware I was there. But I want to thank all the people that have asked about that, and I appreciate it immensely. Another update I have, I just got a few seconds ago a message from my attorney. Would you like to know?
Oh my God.
So I have been, trying to figure out why we haven't got a hearing yet. My attorney has spoken to the judge's aide. Judge Gale is working personally to make a hearing happen. He does not want it virtual. He wants it in person, which again,
that's why it's taking so long.
That's why it's taking so long. He's trying to make something happen, from what I understand. The problem I have with that is that we all know Kyle's not going to show, but he still wants it to have an in-person thing on record, from what I would probably imagine. So that's what's taking so long, is that they're trying to arrange something for an in-person type meeting rather than a virtual. So the judge is personally working to set that up. They said that it should be soon. Quote, soon. So most of the hearings they've had are virtual, but those are like general type of things. This is a very different matter, according to my attorney. This is a very different situation, and the judge has taken a personal interest in it and is arranging for a very personalized hearing with Kyle. That
sounds spooky.
Yeah,
that sounds like a threat to me.
So
I mean, it probably is.
So that's the update. They have not forgotten, which is kind of what I expected. But like again, why bother having a in-person hearing if the person's not going to show, and they probably recognize he's not going to show unless they want it on record that it was something he was supposed to go to and didn't show up, and then they can issue an arrest warrant.
There's no fuckery with like, oh, my internet didn't connect.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and I'm sure exactly. He's making no, and he did the same thing with the depositions. He's making it so there's no escape. Yeah.
Right.
And so it is the long game, unfortunately, but Kyle will be arrested at some point, or he will have a arrest warrant out. We will find him unless he goes to Mexico and out of the country. He's going to go to jail. So I'm
Angry Veteran for 5 said, "Hey Steve, hope you're doing good. We need to get together and play some games when I have time off."
Yeah, like I said, I haven't really enjoyed playing games lately. I obviously had a lot on my mind. I've been doing a lot of projects as well. Destiny 2 was fun, and I did enjoy it, but it was really time consuming because you're doing the dailies and stuff like that. And I don't want to play like that. I don't like MMOs that you have to group with people. I don't like games you have to group with people that much because I feel like I'm obligated to do raids and we have 25 people, but like one-on-one, somebody says, hey, like, let's play a game together. That's great. I can do that. But
I've been learning how to play auto chess.
What?
I've been learning how to play. So, Intree Feline was bugging me to play chess because she wanted to see a stream of Chesh playing chess. So I've been learning how to play auto chess, which isn't regular chess. It's like you guys have different abilities, and there's like a League of Legends version. So I've been learning how to play auto chess, and it's going pretty well. I think it's interesting, but the new season's gonna roll over. So I'm gonna wait for the season to roll over because then everything's gonna change and everything's gonna be new anyway. But if you're interested, here's somebody who plays it regularly, so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. Give her a thumbs up and leave her a comment saying I sent you because they know who I am.
Yeah, and comment below what game you think I should try. Again, I like the strategy games. I do like the open world type games, but I'm a solo player.
We still need to play co-op Portal.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, there's another Portal game out there too. That was I downloaded off Steam that was free. It was not Mel. There was Portal Mel, which is a free version somebody did. But there was another Portal out there that was based upon the Portal game, but not by Valve, which looked interesting, and I've downloaded. Three Rusty Nails, welcome to New Hole. He's a New Hole. Thank you, New Hole. Yes, appreciate it.
I should change mine to Dark Star stuff.
I've tried things like Everspace. I've tried I do like Original Sin, Divinity 2 Original Sin, but it's a game I could play once, and I don't think I could get through it again.
Do you like co-op horror?
What?
You like co-op horror games?
Not really. I don't like any co-op games. I mean, I played Left 4 Dead
I mean,
and Silent Hill.
Like it's your friend playing with you. It's not.
That's fine. But I like doing that. I like those types of games. Like for example, like Remnant Out of the Ashes. I had Anomalous Insect and.
I think Phantasmophobia might be fun to do as just because it's not a game where you have to do dailies or anything like that. If you don't want to, you just get into a group and you get in a lobby and you play together. It's like a LAN thing,
which is okay. Yeah, I mean that kind of stuff. I love. By the way, Smitty says I love Civilization. I thought that was. I have Civilization 5. I think what the latest one is. But again, play it once, you're kind of done, right?
Yeah, see, chat knows what I'm talking about. Phantasmophobia, I think would be fun to play together, and that's I think it's a 4-person co-op game. So, and it's just oh, we're in a spooky house. Oh, we're in a spooky jail. Oh, we're in a spooky school, and we're trying to. You're monster hunting. You're you got to figure out. You have to go into the place and figure out what kind of ghost or what kind of creature is haunting.
Can you play it solo?
And try not to get killed. I don't know.
I like solo games
together.
But see, I like solo games that I can learn how to play and have fun. And then when I find somebody I want to play the game with, and I go play the game with. But I'm a solo adventurer. Angry Veteran, welcome to Curious Hole. That sounds so dirty. I may have to change that now. Thank you, Angry Veteran. He's a curious hole. That is dirty.
I don't know if you're if Phantasmophobia is a 4-player online co-op psychological horror.
That sounds like Left 4 Dead.
No! Oh my god, no! Left 4 Dead is I'm shooting zombies.
Yeah, but it's still co-op.
That's not a psychological horror.
No, well, I played Silent Hill. That's a psychological horror.
Yes, Silent Hill would be a psychological horror. Yes.
And the original.
Have you played PT?
No. What? What's PT?
PT was people speculated on what it stood for, but I think it was decided that it meant playable trailer, and it was from the guy who did Silent Hill. Yes, I'm pretty sure. And he the game never got finished, but PT is such a good trailer. You should.
I think the original psychological horror that I personally remember was a game called I Have No Mouth, but I Must Scream. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But no, I do like the strategy. I'm never going to play Eve. That game, too hell of a huge learning curve and too advanced. I'm not interested. I have tried Everspace. I have that, and Elite Dangerous. Diablo 3. I tried Diablo 2, which is okay. I don't know if Diablo 3 is worth getting into. I don't like PlanetSide Tournament or only two-person or two-dimensional perspective I like was Original Sin.
I think you should play Oxygen Not Included.
Yeah, that I've looked at that before. That looked like maybe interesting.
It's
or No Man's Sky.
It's way more complex than you think it is just looking at the cute little guys, and that the amount that it will teach you about engineering and like how to run electrical circuits and how to run like air distribution and power distribution.
Yeah, that'd be fun. You know, Kerbal Space Program I love. I think Kerbal Space,
and it's a solo game. So.
I didn't think Kerbal was going to be that much fun. I was like, what are you're building rocket, whatever. It really is interesting.
It's up to 4 players, so Phantasmophobia you could play solo if you wanted to learn the game.
Somebody had mentioned Dragonfall. I might try Dragonfall Unity. I like Morrowind was one of the greatest games ever created. I love the Elder Scrolls series. I liked it way more than Skyrim even. So
Skyrim.
Not a Skyrim person. Oblivion was fun, but Morrowind was the best.
I gotta get a Switch again so I can play more Switch games.
Yeah, no, I appreciate people want to teach me. I can't. I don't want to learn Eve. It's just, again, I got so many other things going on. I play a game for escape things.
It's a difficult game to get into now.
I spent 10 years of my life playing WoW. I knew every nuance of the game. I mean, I had mastery in everything. I don't want to do something like that again.
Just go back to playing WoW.
Yeah. Dragonfall Unity, I'm looking it up right now. It looks kind of fun. I mean, it looks like almost like a Minecraft game, or one of those old school games that I used to enjoy playing, like the original Pool of Radiance kind of stuff, or what was the other one? There was Neverwinter Nights. Yeah. Yeah, WoW changed to the point where it became just boring as shit because everything was cookie cutter. I hated that. I hated it with a passion.
It kind of. Do you want to play like just a self-contained game?
I prefer the self-contained games, but I don't mind the MMOs. I just don't like the MMOs where you have to rely on other people to go raid. I
gotta get Steve to play Overwatch so he can play McCree, so he can say it's logic o'clock, so he can be Steve McCree.
I should try Overwatch. I do like Team Fortress 2. That's an amazing game. But I don't know if I can get into Overwatch.
Have you ever played the Half-Life series?
Oh yeah. I play the Half-Life series. Yeah, I like Half-Life. But, I mean, it's really like old school now. You know what? Not BioShock. The other one. What was the one it's kind of like Half-Life. It was not BioShock, but altered. I don't remember the game. I'm thinking of. I remember playing it, but I remember the name of it. But,
it's not BioShock.
Not BioShock, but it's similar.
Dead Space?
Was not Dead Space, no. But it's a lot like Half-Life 2. One of those games where you're going through, trying to figure out what the hell's happening to your crew, kind of stuff.
I was thinking about, so anybody who's interested, you can get into my Discord by becoming a member or a Patreon, and I'm looking at setting up and running a D&D campaign, like a text-based one in there, which means I can basically have unlimited number of players.
I have Borderlands 2. It's okay. Again, I prefer more solo than the co-op. I've tried the co-op.
We should get Steve to play those, like, you're in 5th grade and here's a puzzle game. It's about Egypt.
Pitfall. There you go. Now that's a game.
System Shock.
System Shock. Yeah, System Shock. That's the game.
Is that the one you were talking about?
That's a good game. Have you ever played it in System Shock 2?
Yeah. I know
those were good games. I thoroughly enjoyed System Shock.
Listen. Oh, Bayonetta. Yeah, you might like Bayonetta. But I don't know if you can get Bayonetta. It's a Nintendo game. I don't know if you can get it on PC. Nintendo's a dick about that.
Well, you can get an emulator maybe.
You could get an emulator, but we don't encourage illegal activity here at this channel.
The ROMs are illegal. But if I guys haven't played System Shock 2, it's an older game, but I really did enjoy it.
Should we make Steve finally play a Pokemon game?
I'm into Pokemon. So what do you say, Bayonetta?
Yeah.
I can look it up.
Bayonetta? Yeah, Bayonetta's cool. Bayonetta is kind of like... It's like Nintendo's version of Devil May Cry. Borderlands.
I do like the 4X type games, yeah.
Maybe we can get Steve to play Civilization.
I have the latest Civilization.
I play Civ?
Oh, I love The Sims. The Sims are great. But there's so many different expansions of The Sims.
Apparently Bayonetta 2 is on Nintendo, but the original Bayonetta is on PC.
Yeah, I'm looking. I can see it. It looks okay.
If you play Pokemon, 3rd gen is the best. I liked Gen 2. I wasn't
The Pathfinder Kingmaker. That sounds familiar for some reason.
Heart Gold and Soul Silver? Yes, please.
Let's see.
But I think we're kind of off topic, and we're probably should get out of here.
Pathfinder. Oh, Pathfinder looks. Yeah, Pathfinder Kingmaker.
Pathfinder.
That looks fun. Something like that looks fun. That reminds me of a game called Spellcaster or Spell. Oh, what is it? Spellcaster 3, I think it was. That looks a lot like that. That's almost like a Diablo type game. That looks fun. I can play part of that.
Animal Crossing. You can make Steve play Animal Crossing. You want to talk about dailies?
Yeah, I can't do the daily stuff. I don't have much time to invest. I just don't have the mindset. Again, I have so many tabs open now for projects that I'm working on and things I'm reading. I've been doing a lot of reading lately, and so I'd rather do that than play games. But I just need a game every so often to take my mind away from things.
Play Pokemon.
I'm not gonna play Pokemon.
Pokemon Ball. What?
What is it? You throw the ball. You throw the ball and you get the. What is it? Pokemon Go. There you go.
Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go. Let's go Eevee and Let's go Pikachu.
People used to drive around all over the place looking for the Pokemon with Pokemon Go.
They still do it. I downloaded it. I downloaded Pokemon Go again. So my phone broke, and so I just installed the game and was like, whatever. And I recently reinstalled it just to take a look. And there's actually 2 Pokestops right near me. And then I remembered that I don't like it because it's not really a Pokemon game. So
are those random? Like where they appear on the GPS? Are they random locations?
What the shops or the Pokemon?
Or either or.
The shops, no. The shops aren't random.
Okay, but the Pokemon are.
Kind of, yeah. They're limited, so it's not any Pokemon shows up anywhere, and there are some that show up more in daytime.
What if it shows up in somebody's house?
Oh no, they show up in your house, yeah.
Well, yeah, you're not going to go to somebody's house to collect Pokemon.
Oh, you don't have to go that close.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know what the range is for that.
No, if there's if I'm in my apartment and there's one in the backyard over there, I can throw it from here. I don't need to go into my backyard.
Okay, that makes sense. So, but if it's a mile away and you go to there, over there, you don't. Okay.
Yeah, you can walk if you're walking down the street and it's quote unquote in somebody's house. If you're on the street, you can catch the Pokemon. You don't have to go into somebody's house. That would be absurd.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's a Zapdos in there. B&E, guys. Guess it's time. Team rocking it up.
Hi, OPT
Hi,
Lawyer. How are you, man? Hope you're doing well. We have not forgotten about you by any stretch of imagination. So, hope your recovery is amazing and quick, and you're not in any. You get rid of the pain pretty quickly.
So should we wrap up, Steve?
We should be wrapping up. So anyways, to summarize, so Caffeine Corner probably coming to an end. That doesn't mean we may not do an episode, but here and there. But we are going to be moving on to bigger and better things, or different things at least, to have more of a call-in type format that we're working on. We ask that you guys help promote it when we're ready to launch it. Let people know, put it in forums, and of course they'll have a call-in number that will be new every week. But we are going to make it so that people can call in. It's going to take us some work, but I think we can do it. Where it doesn't mess up too much of the layout. But anyways, yeah, what do you got to add for that, Josh?
Caffeine Corner has run its course. So we want to take it to the next level. And instead of us just having a conversation and kind of informing you about stuff, we want you to call in and inform us of stuff. So basically the cafe doors are being opened. The stage has been set. And now you guys can come to us and tell us what you think, or how you think, and why you think. And that's going to be the whole, I think that should be the tagline of the show. Why you think? ?
What you think? Yeah, no, that's it. We want to know what you think. And I think there's a whole diversity of topics that people can discuss, what they want to bring to the table. And the whole thing is you guys to bring, what you want to the table. I mean, kind of like what we do now, but in a little more direct format, right? Because we'll pick a particular thing that people want to talk about, and of course we'll learn about it as we go, or we may already know about it, or it might be something like Cheshire does, am I the asshole kind of thing?
Dialing with Chesh and Steve.
Drunk dialing with Well, yeah, no, I'm sure we get people drunk dialing in. That's fine too. If you guys want to call in drunk, that's even better. We're gonna make that a special episode. You have to call in, and you have to be at least drunk when you call in. That'd be amazing.
We'll also be same bat time, same bat place. So we're gonna use the same. As far as I know, right? We're still using this time slot, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't see any reason to change it. I mean, the only I like the 11 o'clock. The only thing we may consider is like doing it on a Saturday and Sunday weekend on a weekend if people prefer that. If people are home,
maybe we can do supplementals. So if we have a topic that gets like kind of out of hand, or like gets kind of big, and there's a lot of more people that want to talk about it, we can do like a follow up that week on the weekend.
Yeah, okay with that.
Or if there's like something that we're like, okay, listen, we didn't have time to kind of go over a lot of what we wanted to talk about, so let's make it so that way let's have more of a conversation now that we've had time to look into it a little bit more, if it's something along those lines, because that might happen.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with that. So yeah, I think we're going to probably end this a little early. My caffeine is definitely worn out. I've been up all night. Jess already got a modicum of sleep.
I want to talk about it.
She had a hell of a night. She had a long night, but she did get some sleep. I didn't. So I probably will be passing out here. Then tomorrow, you usually stream on Tuesdays. I got something maybe on Wednesday.
Damn it, Jim! I'm a doctor, not a miracle worker. The show is dead.
Well, I'm looking forward to what we have. I think that Colin is the way to go. I think that people are going to enjoy it. We'll see what can go wrong, right?
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to hearing from people. And I think that given a little bit of time, I think we're going to get some probably contentious callers, in my opinion, because like I said, we're leaving this a pretty open-ended topic-wise. So yeah, we're probably going to end up talking about atheism and stuff, and yeah, we're probably going to be talking about like morality and epistemology and stuff, and sometimes we're going to talk about minimum wage and politics and all that SJW stuff and all that good nonsense. So I am looking forward to, I do hope that some of the people who are watching Talk Heathen, or even on Talk Heathen, and some of the people who watch the ACA or are part of the ACA call in, so we can actually have some of those discussions, because I think that'd be really valuable. And I do think that some people are probably going to think like they're gonna call in expecting something along the lines of the ACEA, like that Darth Dawkins lookalike that called in. Like he came in expecting this,
That
and
was
it's
classic.
like, we're here, or you're way up here, and we're down here. You gotta just chill out. It's okay. It's cool.
Just reading something before I end here, Mary.
Oh, I do have something I want to show you guys.
Wait. Apparently, I'm now a Christian apologist. I did not.
Yeah,
know
so am
this.
I. Didn't you know?
No, Why don't you people tell us these things? I mean, can you let us know these things? Because I was unaware that I was a Christian apologist. Who knew?
I wanted to give you guys an update on my plants. Yeah, that's right. It's plural now. Look it.
Oh, that's cute.
Look at how much he's growing. This is a Roma tomato plant. He smells good. And then I got these little guys that are all in little planters now. And so I'm excited for these little guys. Let's see how they do. And make sure I give them enough water. But I got lettuce and bell pepper and zucchini and chives and spring onions to these guys. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they grow, if they grow, or if I fail miserably. So I'll give you guys updates as we go to see if they start coming up. Who knows?
I would love to do more planting stuff. I would love to be out there in the dirt planting stuff. I really enjoyed gardening. I thought it was really fun and stress relieving. But one of these days, maybe I'll do an indoor garden. You know.
You take care of plants more than my Pokemon. Yeah, I know. My Pokemon die all the time because I'm a bad Pokemon trainer.
All right, guys. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. Go check out Cheshire's channel and her YouTube channel, and she's got some art stuff and that time of the month coming up. And with that, anything you want to? Because this could be our last CC for a while, or even
it's gonna be our last. Yeah,
I doubt it. We'll probably do it like Cheshire said. If we find something that probably
there might be something that we're like, okay, listen, this is like big in the news, or listen, this is like a dumb thing that we're seeing way too much of that we feel like we need to explain. Oh God, please no. Yeah, I'll see you over at my channel. I do want to do an episode about mansplaining. I think that'll be fun.
Well, I have to do it. Let me explain to you how that works. Yeah, I'll explain to you how mansplaining works, because I'm a man and I can explain it to you, right?
Right, exactly. I do have one about that weird conversation that was going on yesterday with about the Christian apologetics thing you just brought up. I have a lot of that saved already and ready to go, so I'll be doing a stream about that. And I also have a big one about Amazon that I'm going to be doing. So those two should be happening this week, and it should be today and Wednesday because I have some stuff going on Thursday, so it won't be on Thursday. But Answers and Reason is also doing a video over on their channel on Tuesday. They have some podcasty things, so I'm going to be swinging by and checking that out, and then I'll go live after that. So if you want, go check that out also.
Awesome.
You'll see me in the chat.
Well, I need to listen to their podcast more often. Because I love those guys. I mean, they're great. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this. Thanks for all the super chats. Thanks for all the memberships.
I want to grow a weed plant.
We're going to leave it at that. He wants to grow weed plants.